Catch your ringer turned down.
What's that?
Catch your ringer turned down.
Yeah, it's in there today.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good. This time, I'm going to call the April 5th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. First thing, I'd like to welcome everyone here. Happy to see so many old and new faces in our meeting today. At this time, we're going to have a prayer by Commissioner Sarkella and the pledge by Commissioner Heberlein.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to serve our friends and neighbors. We ask that you be with us in our decision-making, ever mindful that all good things come through you, and in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on, Leslie, do roll call, please.
Commissioner, District 3, Commissioner Sarkella,
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Ballard,
Present.
District 5, Commissioner Wyatt,
Here.
District 2, Commissioner Heberlein,
Here.
and District 1, Chairman Block.
Here. Moving on to additions, corrections, or deletions from our agenda. If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt today's agenda.
A motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard and support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Yeah, I would like to add a topic of discussion to be added to the agenda, a consideration of the possibility of modifying a policy in regards to RFPs, things like that.
You want to have a discussion of the full board about it?
Well,
Or
we
do you
can
want to
actually,
take action on it?
well, it'll have action that'll be taken on it. But it could come after we've had the conversation about the purchase of vehicles today.
Okay. So you would like it to be after the purchase of vehicles, so maybe we would add it,
Well, no, I'd have it before that.
okay? So we can add it in between 17 and 18.
It's RFP change. Commissioner.
A policy amendment or a discussion about a policy amendment, yeah. RFP.
So I need a friendly amendment to the motion made to adopt the agenda to include adding this discussion related to RFP change.
I'll make a friendly amendment to the adoption of our agenda, adding number 18, policy amendment to RFP.
Is that Roger?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. We have a motion and support for the amended motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to our meeting minutes from March 15th. If there's no additions or corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Heberlein and support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence, petitions, and introductions. You received your correspondence from Jody through email yesterday. Moving on to commissioner reports, we'll start with Commissioner Sarkella.
Was able to attend Lexington Township meeting. They're entertaining their open fence ordinance, also spending some ARPA money and a food truck ordinance as well. And then they're having a bike path discussion with the city of Croswell. Croswell administration has changed there, so they're hoping they can move that forward and do some much needed maintenance on that bike path down there. And then Village of Lexington, they had a presentation on the mobile home park erosion area, and they're going to be looking at RFP for engineering on that. And they were having a meeting with Gilo in regards to truck traffic in town. There's some issues with the residential area. And their mobile home park board member resignation, they had a person that served on that board for 80 years. So she finally resigned. And then they had to increase their rent there, and then they're entertaining looking at a possible few locations there for EV charging stations. So that's all I have for.
You know, you could be that age someday.
No, she served on the board for 80 years. So I'll imagine what age, I didn't get what age she is.
I think she started when she was 4.
I don't know. That's a long time to serve on a board.
Yeah.
Kudos to her.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. And they're going to recognize her at their next meeting.
Thank you, Bill. Gary?
I'll save my comments, most of them for we get to committee reports, but tonight we have our monthly Parks and Recreation Board, and of course tonight and next week starts all my township meetings.
Okay. I myself met with Dave Faber today pertaining to items of mutual interest between the city of Sandusky and the county. Had a fruitful conversation. That's all I have for a commissioner report.
I attended Elk Township's meeting on the 30th. They continue to work on how to spend their ARPA funds. They held their annual budget hearing and approved their annual budget. I missed the city of Marlette last night, trying to keep this cold at bay. Doing pretty good so far. Village of Peck on March 16th, they hired former trustee Tim Hayden as their village manager. And they continue to address blight issues, send out letters and hold court proceedings. And I had to leave early so I could get up and get to the airport. And I believe that's about it
For your delayed flight, right?
for my delayed flight. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Roger. Joel?
Well, there's some windmills, it looks like, that's coming to Fremont and Speaker. There'll be some pretty tall ones. In fact, I think the tallest in Michigan, from what I understand. And, now there's some people that are pretty upset about it, but that would have taken place a year ago. There wasn't a real big turnout on that. Speaker Township today has a meeting tonight I'll be going to regarding a special variance for a golf course there that would like to have a campsite facility there. And we all know that camping is really popular, so I'm sure there won't be any shortage of people that want to find another location to camp. So they're going to have some a special approval for the use of that property. And that's about all I got.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to our administrator report. Tara?
I do not have a report today.
Okay. That will take us into public comments pertaining to agenda items. Are there any public comments pertaining to today's agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on to our presentation from our Drain Commissioner, Doug Sweet. Doug, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I'll keep it short. I know you're busy.
I was really hoping you're going to go through this line by line.
Well, you're about wrong.
He was alone. in that. We had that discussion.
You just told me how it was going to be.
As always, we always put a couple pictures in, so of drains we worked on in the last year, so you can kind of see what we've done. One east of town, one west of town, and one up by Argyle. Next page is kind of our explanation of the four types of accounts we deal with. We have an 801, an 851, an 802, and an 804. We'll break those down here in just a couple minutes. A little bit about what we did last year. We had no petitions filed in our office. We did have one board of determination for an intercounty drain. We removed beaver dams on 9 different county drains last year. And we performed maintenance on 31 different county drains, which came out to 62 miles of county drains. We did sediment or tree removal lines. We sprayed brush or trees on 35 different drains last year, which came out to 82 miles of county drains. And we recorded 21 different easement agreements with Registered Deeds Office. And we had assisted funding from MDOT on 5 different drains, which came out to just over, a little over $184,000 kicked in from MDOT. The first tab we have here is our 801 account. It is, every drain is on this account, and it shows the activity in there last year and how much money is in that account as of the end of last year. So instead of flipping through all those page by page, why don't you turn back to page 74 back there? And you'll see in the lower right-hand corner, all the funds in those drains totals just over $1.7 million in the lower right-hand corner. And then the page below that gives a breakdown of, we did 19 construction and maintenance drain assessments last year. So it's going to give you a list of, it's going to list each drain name. It's going to give you the years assessed in the middle of the page. And then off to the right, it's going to give you the dollar assessment amount. So if you scroll down to the bottom, it's going to be just over $144,000 for those 19 drain assessments.
So I got a quick question.
Okay.
So when it says amount billed to landowners, is that something like you're actually billing the landowner? Is that always assessed to the
It
tax?
puts on their taxes.
Okay.
So, yeah. So if you turn to page 2, it's gonna give you a breakdown of every township and the drain or drains that of these 19 drains we assessed out. It's gonna give you a list of that, and it's gonna give you a list of the years assessed, the amount billed to the landowners, the township at large, and the total assessment. If you flip to the next page, it'll show you the total for townships, cities, and villages for those 19 drains, which is over $126,000. And then MDOT and the railroad kicked in an additional $920 roughly. And then the county's portion for those 19 drains is gonna give you that list again with the years assessed, and the county's portion, which was $16,000, just over. So, and then our next tab is our 851 tab, our account. And it has every drain that's got an ongoing assessment that has a loan against it for work that was previously done. So there are 104 drains right now in our 851 account. And we'll do the same thing as last time. If you go back to page 28. It's gonna show you in the lower right-hand corner, just over $171,000. That was money that's been collected as of the end of the year. Some townships pay early. So this is part of that right here. There'll be more coming as of. And then it's gonna give you a list again, just like it did in the last time, only there's 104 of them this time. Every drain, the year assessed, and the total dollar amount assessed out. And it's gonna give you a breakdown per township, cities, villages, all that again. So the township, cities, villages, and property owners was just over $1 million last year. MDOT's portion was just over $13,000. The railroad portion was just over $1,400. And the next page is gonna give you a breakdown of the county at large. So it's gonna give you every drain, the years assessed, and the county's portion. On page 16, the county's portion was just over $214,000 right here. You got all the property owners, the cities, villages, townships, MDOT, and railroads back together, you'll get just over $1.2 million we assessed out last year. Next tab is our 802 account. List of 77 drains here that are in the red. That work was done after we did assessing last year, closed the books, so these are drains that need to get assessed out this year, this coming year. Turn to page 2, it'll show you that the combination of these 77 drains is just over $230,000 that we're sitting on as of the end of the year, last year, that needs to get assessed out. And then the last tab is our 804 account. It's got a list of every drain since the beginning of time and how much has gone into our 804 account. Our 804 account is our revolving maintenance account, which covers our truck, reimburses our maintenance supervisors, wages and benefits back to the county and stuff like that. So if you turn to page 7, it'll show you as of the end of the year, we had just over $80,000 in that account. And that's all I got for you. Any questions?
I believe back in the 801, under the list of, maybe I'm in the wrong section, there was the townships were listed, and I noticed there's some townships in the county that aren't listed in there. Does that mean there's no county drains in those townships, or does that simply mean that there's no assessments?
Well, it could be, most of it's probably no county drains, because almost every township that has a drain in it, we're trying to spread the costs around and work on those drains in those townships. So I would think if it has a county drain in it, it's got some sort of small assessment. I think we have one township that's like $150.
Gotcha.
So if it's not on this list, it's probably doesn't have county drain. Anything else?
Any questions for Doug?
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for being here, Doug.
Have a good one.
Just a quick comment. I go to my township meetings or try to, and you're not a topic at any of them, so.
I don't have her feelings over that.
I didn't think you would. That's a compliment.
Okay. At this time, we're going to move on to interviews. We have Kendra Messing here to interview for the Health Board position. Kendra, the floor is yours.
Hello, I feel like it wasn't that long ago, but back in September of 2020, I applied to be appointed to the health board and I've been serving on there ever since. So this is just for the renewal of that term. And I would appreciate being reappointed. I've learned so much. Some people thought I was nuts for applying to be appointed to the health board during the middle of a pandemic. But honestly, I don't think it would have been any better time to learn really baptism by fire, kind of. So I have learned so much and enjoyed serving on it. And they're doing great things and I hope to continue to support them in that.
Any questions for Kendra?
Can you list a short list of examples of things that happened during your term that was a positive net effect to the Sand Lake County residents in which you serve?
Yeah, they, one thing that I actually have been really loving learning about is the new program that they've started with the jail. Parent, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's the Parenting Behind Bars, I think is what it's called. But basically helping the inmates to learn parenting skills that maybe, you know, through life they haven't learned or they haven't had a chance to learn, so that hopefully that'll help their children when they're released. I think that's something that is just amazing that they've done that isn't something that's highly seen. You know, they do a lot of behind the scenes programs like that that just have a lasting impact on this community.
Is the health department the one that's administering that
Yeah, it's
program?
the substance use section. Yep, so Shauna Booms. Yeah, so that's been the first thing. I've seen some amazing things that Katie Dutcher, she's been doing just between the infant maternal health, WIC, all of that. I don't think that those programs get nearly as much recognition as they should. We've got, you know, a lot of small families around here that need and desperately need and get great support through those programs. That it's been awesome to see everything. All the immunizations and all of that you just don't think about. So. Any other questions or anything?
Hearing none.
Thank you for serving on the
Yeah.
board.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for stepping up during a difficult time too.
Oh.
You were crazy for jumping on there. Somebody had to do it though, right?
Exactly.
Thank you for being here, Kendra.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, at this time, we are going to move on to the appointment to standing committees. We have a 5-year term. There is one person listed, and that is Kendra. I would entertain a motion for appointment.
I'll make that a motion to appoint Kendra Messing to a 5-year term
Support.
expiring 4/15/2027.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlein. We have support from Commissioner Wyatt. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for your service. This time, we have no appointments to boards, commissions, or committees, no county chair appointments. We do have one resolution, and that is a resolution honoring Paula Messing for her years of service.
I'll read it from here. But
Okay. What did I have?
Paula, do you want to come up here?
Okay.
All right. Give her a chair, Gary. I always like to say a little bit before I read the resolution. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I've got to know Paula over the years working here at the courthouse, and she is dedicated to her job. And I didn't know until after I was a commissioner here for about 1.5 years that her brother-in-law was actually my boss in manufacturing in the vehicle industry. And so we kind of connected that way. But Paula, you've done a great job. You're going to be missed. And some of us that are older have retired from our jobs. It's kind of a bittersweet thing because it's the end of your career, but you have to look forward to do some things you never got to do before. So if I may, I'd like to go ahead and read the resolution from our Board of Commissioners. Whereas Paula Messing retired from Sand Lake County with over 37 years of dedicated service, and whereas Paula began her career in the prosecutor's office on January 8th, 1985 as a legal secretary, and on September 1st, 2008, accepted the position of chief deputy clerk's assessor in the county clerk's office. And whereas during her tenure, Paula has worked under prosecutor James V. Young, county clerk Linda Kazefka, Denise McQuire, and Leslie Hildendorf. And whereas throughout her career as a public servant, Paula has provided excellent service, quality work in the office and courtrooms, and further gained respect and admiration of her colleagues. And whereas Paula has acted as a clerk of the Board of Commissioners on several occasions, taking board minutes with accuracy, efficiency, and now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners by the resolution recognizes and commends Paula Messing for her longstanding commitment to Sanilac County and its citizens. Be it therefore resolved that this resolution be presented to Paula Messing and spread upon the proceedings of the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners this 5th day of April 2022. Thank you very much, Paul. Oh, sure.
Yeah, one more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Paula, before you step away, I think we have a representative from the courts that would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Block. I appreciate you letting me go even though I wasn't on the agenda. But I just wanted to personally thank Paula. Paula is an absolute MVP of our county and certainly of the county clerk's office. She's one of those people who's very soft-spoken, but when she speaks, everybody listens. She knows how to do absolutely everything, and the hole that she's going to leave when she retires is essentially unfillable. It's a pair of shoes that no one can fill. But I personally appreciate everything you've done for our county. And frankly, me, she's put up with me for the last 15 months, which I know is no easy chore.
That's why she's retiring, Judge.
Exactly. I mean, Judge Teep was here a long time. She never left. But I really do appreciate all you've done. And she never complains. And she's even said, I'm willing to come back and help. You know, I just have some vacations coming up. Well, I hope you enjoy your retirement. I really do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank everybody. If I may I introduce my family?
Sure.
Okay. My husband Glenn,
Hello, Glenn.
my son Alex, and his wife Kendra, my son Mitchell, and his wife Tiffany. They put up a lot through over the years, and
You guys got to keep her busy now.
yeah. No, I have
She's got 8 grandkids.
And Paula, there's something to say about family you come from. And, you know, I know you married into the Messing family, but the Messing family is a good name wherever you go. And that shows for your work.
Thank you.
As for me, I'm gonna hide.
Yeah, my wife's retiring a year. It scares me.
At this time, I'll entertain a support for the resolution. Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlein and support from Commissioner Sarcella. So we'll need a roll call vote.
So Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes, and congratulations.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberlein,
Yes.
and Chairman Block.
Yes. Enjoy your retirement, Paula. Thank you for your service. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to committee reports and we will start with Commissioner Wyatt.
Personnel Committee met today in reference to a position being placed on animal control. It's that person that basically walks around the county ensuring that the animal tags are up to date and checking in on those that have expired and whatnot. I don't think we filled it last year. We had difficulty filling it. It was a reclassification that was done on that position, so we're anticipating getting a couple applicants. Anybody that's interested in having an enjoyable part-time job where you can walk to people's yards and check on what their dogs are doing and suffer the effects of heat and dog bite, I guess, contact personnel.
You're looking at Paula.
Definitely not.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyatt. Hunter?
Let's see, I've sat in on the medical care facility meeting on the 28th. Parks is tonight. We are also hiring. We have 2 open seasonal positions at Evergreen Park and one at Lexington Park. If you know any students or retirees or anybody looking for part-time outside work, tell them to come and apply. It's online. So that's about all I have.
Thanks, Roger. I met with the Safe Council this morning, a good group of people doing good things. They are moving some things forward. A few points that were brought up today that I really appreciated was being the Safe Council is a millage-based entity. They do give preference to in-county residents. And they do what they can for out-of-county residents because it is more of an emergency type situation when they need service. But it was good to hear that. And another good thing that I heard from the group is that they do their best to spend their millage funds within the years. They're not in the aim to build up a fund equity of something like that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. As Commissioner White already expressed, what we looked at the dog inspector, and basically he said, "Oh, I don't need to repeat it." And obviously, Commissioner White and I are both on the personnel committee meeting, and we're starting to get into the discussions about replacing our county controller. And as I said to Paul, it's always a sad thing when you work with somebody. It don't matter if you always agree with somebody or disagree with them. You worked for them a number of years. It's always hard to see somebody moving on, but it's something we got to do. And we're working towards that end. And then last week, myself, Christy, Bender, and I'm missing a person, Roger. We met with at the DHS again over the medical care facility. We're still working through that and coming up with ideas and working with the medical care facility. And I know there was some letters to the editor in the paper, local paper, I think it was last week, strongly advising they don't want the medical care facility to close. And I just want everyone to understand that is not our intent. And please don't take it that way. We're trying to work through some things to make it viable and make it a staple in our community for years to come. And so I know there's been maybe some communication out there that we're looking at closing. That's the last thing we want to talk about. So we're trying to work through this and make it work. And we're going to make it work. It's just going to take some time and some good common sense and some good business principles. So.
Well said. Thank
End
you.
of my report.
Bill? Council on Aging had their meeting a couple weeks ago. They approved their HDC funding and their budget. Township funding is coming. So Trudy's guaranteed in there's going to be some more money in their budget. Home visits, the Sanilac Ambulance Pyramid program has been moving forward very well and has had a lot of participation with that. And then the Human Development Commission meets in Carroll. I try to get over there for their meeting. They approved their budget as well. And they were approved for a grant for $499,000 that they did receive. So that's a nice addition to their coffers. And a lot of that money goes towards plumbing, water and wastewater program for homes. And they did what they call a point in time count for homelessness back in January. And it turns out it was on a night when the temperatures were in single digits for the 4 counties. So I'm talking Huron, Lapeer, Sanilac, and Tuscola. There's 244 beds available. And that evening, there was 244 beds filled and 275 people that were homeless out in the environment on that evening. Sanilac County, we actually had 30 people that were exposed that evening. So we have 44 beds in our county. So it's just something I wanted to make this board aware of, even though, we think things are doing pretty well. There's still some issues with the homeless in our area that we really don't think of because we're not such a big metropolitan area, but it does occur. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to unfinished business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the add-on discussion item related to RFP change. Commissioner Wyatt?
So years ago, we had a policy that describes anything over $2,000 gets sent out for bid. It's been a successful policy. It's netted savings. The objective of that policy is to save money for the county, but also to provide an opportunity for county residents to provide a service or a product. I've said multiple times in the last couple of years that I think there's some room for an allotment, whether it's a percentage derived allotment or otherwise, that's given to those bricks and mortar businesses, those providers that make Sand Lac their home, that pay taxes in Sand Lac, that may actually employ people here in Sand Lac. So it's not unheard of in the municipalities to have that. We had that where I came from down in Macomb County, and I think it's reasonable to do that here. And it's something that has picked up, and it's generated a little bit of conversation, specifically pertaining to the purchase of 4 vehicles from an out-of-county entity. And we'll be reviewing that later today and looking at the possibility of, or I'm going to hopefully entertain a possibility of choosing a company that represents, Sand Lac County. I feel it's necessary to actually have a policy amendment to actually put that into writing, so we have an understanding that there is the ability, and I'm suggesting, say, a 2% advantage in any bid process if you are an entity in Sand Lac County. And it doesn't change the way they'll bid, but it definitely may change the way we look at it. So say, for example, we don't have a policy that requires you to take the lowest bid. We don't have actually a policy that makes any requirements. It's the department head that gives a recommendation to this board that makes a decision. I think we should amend the policy to include in that decision that 2% bump up.
So what you're suggesting is that when RFPs go out and we get prices back, the low bid is potentially highlighted, but then also the local bid within the 2%.
Well, yeah, and we don't have to do it that way at all because we're not obligated to take the lowest bid. So we can just simply choose, XYZ provider that's in Sand Lac County and call it a day. We've done that with other bids where, the delivery of bids weren't, they were from a company that we weren't happy with them or whatever the case was, and we chose a different provider. It's the recommendation of the department that does so. The sheriff's office traditionally looks to maximize their funds and get the vehicles at the cheapest possible price. But there's other factors that we have to consider when we look at that. So we can either do it and have a number that's actually attached to that policy. My recommendation is 2%, or we just have it on our minds that we would evaluate more than just the lowest price.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with most what you're saying, Commissioner. We're not inclined, or we don't have to by law take the lowest bid. The one disadvantage that our local dealers have here in our county, anyway, they don't have the same access. And Sheriff Rich, what is that called? My purchase or something?
I believe ours is Macomb Purchasing. And I believe it's their local purchasing.
I know there's been in the past, there's been 2 or 3 dealers outside of Michigan have that access to that. And so that, and I don't know why our local dealers don't have that. It's not, they don't need to be discussed now, and I don't know why it is, but there's some, I don't want to use the word unfair advantage, but there is some good things of being part of that where our local dealers aren't. So, and I understand the sheriff department office for years has tried to get the best deal, and I applaud you for that. I do. That's why we should run our departments, but it does leave our local dealerships kind of out in the dark sometimes. And you say 2% is what we should.
Well, I think it would be an advantage for this board to recommend the policy committee meet and come up with a number. My suggestion would be 2%. It's not ridiculous, but it's something, right? It's something, a step forward to give an advantage for those people paying taxes here. I mean, we want people to have jobs here, right? And we want people to move here.
Well, I think, go ahead.
I was just, as I think about this, I hate locking ourselves into parameters or percentages because maybe the local bid is 2.1% over or something like that. Really, this to me appears to be more of a discretion of the board kind of scenario. So maybe what we need to do is direct our departments to know that we are interested in using local providers and encourage them that if it works good for them, that they bring us those recommendations in that way. I can point to the planning commission that went with we didn't go with the low bid for the master plan. And that might even be on today's finance agenda, where we saw a value in a service and it was also provided by a more local entity.
Well, what happens typically though is it's a recommendation of the department asking for the purchase. And in some cases, like you said, the planning commission recommended that this one, same with the high-low. It was recommended by that board to purchase a high-low that was definitely not the lowest price, but other factors are involved. Quite often from the sheriff's office, they are looking for a price-based recommendation. And then it does fall to us to make a decision to say, well, we'd like to bump it up a little bit. I'm fine with that latitude. Certainly, we're going to keep in mind years moving forward that, how do I want to say, that we're not going to have something where we're just awarding bids only to local people and not being careful with the money. There has to be always keeping that eye on the ball. A percentage makes that makes that an important part when we evaluate it, because you do have a limit. I'm good either way. I think it's just.
I would agree.
this
I agree
board-
with, I don't want to sound like a Susie. I don't want to say used car salesman, Mr. Thompson. I don't want to sound like a Susie politician. I don't want to agree with this and agree just to get along, but I want to bring up two things. I don't want to get into the fact that if we have elected official, our sheriff or our elected treasurer, I don't want to start micromanaging their RFPs that come in here. I mean, they do a lot of work on them and all elected officials. So I don't want to get into that, but on the same token, and I'll close with this. It was brought up by one of our local dealers a couple weeks ago that their people work there, they're providing a job. They give a lot back to the community monetarily wise and otherwise. So I think we need to take all those things into account and into consideration.
I would say, Chairman Block, that one of the advantages of having that percentage is you won't be put in a position, say, for example, two qualified applicants providing a service that are both in Sanilac County. Now we have to make the decision, well, which one is it? This one's $20 more, but is $20 really it? I like the ability to have a policy that you can refer to and say, here's a number. This is what we can do. This one is meets the 2%, this one doesn't. You could always obviously have that two competing bids both meet the 2%, then you have to make a decision that way. But I know when we only look at the low bid, and if the department recommends it, and I don't want to micromanage because maybe there's a reason beyond that in which they're choosing that. But I've gotten the impression from the last two sheriffs that it's purely a price difference. It's the cheapest price, and that's what we're going to go with. But I think it's relevant, like you said, Gary, that there's other factors to consider.
And it's a big factor too, because I know we have a dealership sitting here today, but if you look at the newspapers and watch the little league teams and cancer and things, I'll just pick two of them out. They come to mind, Graf Chevrolet and Tubbs Brothers. They do a lot in our community, monetarily wise and otherwise. So I think we have to consider something. So Paul, did you want make any comment today, or?
This is the appropriate time. This is in regards to the cars that was bid out through finance. It was awarded to Signature Ford. Mr. Tubbs and I had several conversations, and he has some excellent points. This is a clear case, in my opinion. No bid is not the best bid. You nailed it. You walk through the 4-H fair and you see banners, Tubbs Brothers. You go through town, cancer support, Tubbs Brothers. And I'm just using you because you're here, Dave. But I do believe for the price difference on this, $2,735 total, 4 cars. $683.75 per car. It's 1.77% difference. I truly feel, even as a guardian of the budget for the sheriff's office, this money is better spent going with the local dealership, keeping that money in the community, because we're going to get it back in the community. Then if we go with Signature, that money's gone.
Perfect.
Yep. And I applaud you, our conversations. You're dead on with your figures. We've worked out, there is no transportation cost to have the cars taken to where we get them outfitted, so our only difference is $683 per car. And I think it's a good investment keeping that money here at a local dealership.
Very good.
So Paul, Sheriff, excuse me. What you're saying that the 4 cars we voted on a week or so
I would
ago,
ask for.
you can still change that yourself, right? Or
My
without approval?
recommendation is to go with Touch Brothers. However, you have to word it for you. But for the price difference, I think it's a better investment in our county.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Paul.
And thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah. Good conversations with
And I think-
all of you guys. I appreciate it.
This is a perfect opportunity to showcase, if you will, why the Board of Commissioners operates the way that we do. We approve things in a finance meeting, and then it sits for 2 weeks before it gets approved by the board. This is a perfect example where our community had an opportunity to have a say. If we would have approved that for immediate approval or just done it, this would have been done 2 weeks ago. But instead, we're a public entity and the public has had an opportunity to have a say, and something good has came out of it. So I think that's worth showcasing, that we do have a good policy and the board does work in that way to make sure the public has an opportunity to have input. So Dave, thank you for having input and being involved in the process.
I appreciate that. We had great conversations. Everybody here. And my point is also that, as Joel's talking about, this doesn't just apply to patrol cars. We have to support our community out here, or we won't have one.
Well, I'll tell you, I had that hard, fast conversation with the former Sheriff Benicki, and it was not something that was looked at as being, something that was doable. I've mentioned it to the last 2 boards about items, and we didn't have something where someone, an advocate on the part of the public, brought it to light. And you did a fine job in doing that, and it gave a greater impetus for this board to examine our policies, which didn't keep us from doing so, but we were minded in the fiscal sense to get things as cheaply as possible, I suppose. So I'm glad we did that, or we're doing that.
Okay, very good. Well, to finish out the discussion related to RFP change, at this point, I would prefer not to make a decision on this. If the policy committee wants to meet, have a discussion about it and bring a proposal before the board, I think that would be the process.
Honestly, moving forward, whoever's on the policy committee in the future, if they see it becoming a problem where we do have, some issues, we can address it then. I think this board is fully on the idea that this is part of our responsibility, the community that we serve, to look at that in that way. So I'm good with it.
Okay.
I recall a time back, probably several boards ago, Sheriff Benicki was here. Excuse me. I sat in here on some building issue and listened as 4 patrol cars were awarded to Signature. And the price difference was $174 or $176 a piece. And all I could do was shake my head. You're passing up your local dealer for that? As I was embarrassed, I really was. So I'm glad to see this is coming to light.
I don't know if the board knows, I actually contacted Dave a couple of years ago about this very subject. I went into the dealership to talk to him. I did talk to him, and I talked to Graff as well. I didn't talk to the owners there, it was the general manager, but brought that up. And one of the issues that you said at the time was that you didn't have access to have Ford designate you as that dealer. So you had some issues of that. He did mention the idea that he'd like to have the service contracts, the maintenance of the vehicles, but the sheriff's department has an excellent maintenance program. Those deputies are assigned those vehicles and they take them to where they're comfortable and they know that they get the work done. And they actually spread out the service of those vehicles amongst many different providers in Sanilac County. So it's actually a good way that that's accomplished.
With the exception of warranty service.
Yeah.
Exclusively, Mr. Tubbs.
Perfect.
Dave, thanks for bringing this to our attention. Very professional.
Okay, anything further related to this discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to new business. We will start with FA 045-22, approval of current claims.
Salem Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified on the accounts payable report dated March 29, 2022 for the general bank account, the amount of $108,353.34.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 046-22, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Salem Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following budget amendments and transfers as listed.
We have a motion support. Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Huberling. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 047-22, approval of 2022 remonumentation contracts.
Salem Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following 2022 contracts. John Militex for County Representative Services in the amount of $4,367.76 for research, surveying, monumentation, and peer group services. Tank Surveying LLC assigned 17 Corners, total contract $21,534. John Militex assigned 17 Corners, total contract $20,910. Atlas Surveying assigned 17 Corners, total contract $21,534. And Peer Group Ratification Services with Russell Brown, total contract $936, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary documentation.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarcella and support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Tara, I don't know, if I'm gonna have you put on your memory hat here. Back when I became commissioner, we review this every year and support this, obviously for obvious reasons, a good thing. It started out, if I recall, that was like a 25-year program to complete. But I know because of the money comes from, you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, because the money comes in slowly from the state, I believe it's out to around, is it 30 years or something now?
Yes, yeah, it started in 1993.
Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
have just chosen to take that path
Yeah,
of taking what we can with the state, working with it instead of the county pushing in more money to make this go faster.
sure. Yeah, that's why I couldn't remember the number of years we thought it would take, but yeah, we're doing it the right way. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 048-22, approval of revised project authorization, Sanilac Transportation.
Salem Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the revised project authorization for fiscal year 2021, section 5311, operating formula, grants for rural area programs, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary documentation electronically. Support.
We have a motion from Bill and support from Gary. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 049-22, authorization to post and fill IT technician.
Salem Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Information Technology Director to post and fill the vacant information technology technician position at a pay grade 6 with benefits.
Support.
We have a motion from Bill, support from Roger. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 050.
I just want to comment one thing on that last position. She had filled that position previous, and for whatever reason, it was terminated within the probationary period. I think that's something we should look at. She should have the ability to go ahead and repost that position, I feel. So I think that is something we need to look at in the future rather than delay it as long as it has been.
Well, actually, she's went through twice, shoot two people.
I was on vacation, so I
Yes,
guess,
actually, am I correct with that? I think there's
I think just the one.
Just one, and typically because her initial request was last year, with this being a new year, we tend to, like, if the position vacates in the same year, we tend to fill that because we've already sought approval. But since it came into the new year, it was just timing, and that's why we went this route.
And I would understand that if we were in with a new board, but it's the same board. So just my thought.
Yeah, we can address it in our policies.
This was a matter of them having to go back to the personnel committee for approval again.
Why don't we talk about that policy? So that policy was done under a budget resolution, right?
Mhm.
And the budget resolution was designed specifically to allow the personnel committee to have an opportunity to talk with department heads about efficiency and whether or not, quite frankly, that position that they were coming to us with actually needed to be filled. At the time, it felt like it was a good idea to have those conversations with the department heads so that you could, squarely sit down and look them in the eye and say, do you really, can we expand some of the job parameters that this job might have on other people and eliminate our total FTE footprint? It was a big topic of discussion going way back when Commissioner Romero was here about trying to, eliminate county employees. It's not so much that we're trying to eliminate county employees, although that is the net effect, but it's about reducing the overall costs as we go forward, because costs keep going up for employees with benefits and the rest. And the income and the revenue stream does not keep pace with it. And I know you were aware we're in negotiations right now and scrambling to legitimately see about, keeping people employed and giving raises, in a way that is
Sustainable.
yeah, right. And that was the reason why that was put into play. So it's been problematic. We've gotten pushback on it from various department heads, but it's also been good because it gave the personnel committee the opportunity to look at the department head, for example, and say, have you evaluated your posting? Like when you look at that job posting, for example, Gary and I, we reviewed the job posting that the administrator control had because we had that position to fill. We felt obligated to look at that posting and update it and consider, are we going to get any applicants or not? We're going to want to write a job posting in such a way that it attracts applicants, right? So we have a wider venue of applicants to consider from. I think that conversation that the personnel committees had multiple times with department heads when positions have become available has netted some fruit, because they have been able to go back and review their job descriptions. And perhaps, I know we've talked several times, Gary, about maybe you want to, put in that job posting about how great Santa Ana County is to live and the types of recreation opportunities. Because remember, we're trying to lure people, right, to come work here, to apply here and to work here. We know we're at a disadvantage in that we can't pay a lot of money. You can drive to St. Clair County just down the road and you can get 20% more for the same job. So we have to think outside the box on how to get those folks here. And that personnel committee review of those positions, I feel has some value in that sense.
I agree with those points, Commissioner White. I want to be cautious that we're not becoming overly burdensome on our departments and making their job harder to fill the
When we've
positions.
approved something and then 6 months later, they need to do it again, it would seem reasonable that, and we've done it. In fact, I remember that was one of the things that the former sheriff brought up about how laborious and time consuming this will be, and they need to get right into it. And we have a memorandum of understanding with the sheriff's office that job, because it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, needs that kind of continuity to just right off the get-go start hiring. The other departments may not need that, but the personnel committee is an email away. So when you've already had an evaluation of that position in, let's say, 6 months ago, and your IT, for example, they're going through another position. We had a 2-minute meeting with Nancy to verify that nothing has changed about the need for that position, and that, the same needs that existed 6 months earlier still exist now. So we were able to authorize it immediately. So there is that 2-week period from when it goes to finance and when it goes to the full board. Maybe we can shorten that time period where it goes directly to the board.
I think we're in a hiring crunch. It's difficult to find people to fill positions. And so I think that it's something that I would hope you guys consider, as you move through that process.
If I can, Chairman, and I'll be real short, I appreciate what Roger said. Basically, what Commissioner Wyatt said is kind of the path we followed. The problem we're running into, and I want to speak to everyone here, it's just not for an IT person. It's just not for somebody at the sheriff's department. It's tough all over. We live in Santa Ana County. We have, believe me, we care. We care about filling positions, but we have so much revenue coming into our county, and we have to take that revenue and distribute it to where our needs are. And, back, it was probably 6 months ago, we had to work make some changes, not make some changes, but work around it and issue hiring someone in the prosecutor's office. We found a way to do it to get that person in. Because, quite frankly, everyone knows you can go to St. Clair County or you can go to Macomb County and the wages are a lot higher, so I want you to understand personally, we've had this conversation many times. We want to get these things filled. And it's not so much about cutting costs, it's about making it work to get someone in here and also make sure that our different departments have the help they need. So, yeah, we are looking at that. And I think that was a very good comment, Roger. It was well.
So it got generalized a lot more than I anticipated. That was directed toward a particular position that was terminated before the probationary period was even up. And I feel she should have been allowed to repost that immediately. And it didn't happen. It got drug on because this has gone on for months, and that's all I need to say about it. Sorry, Bill. I know you got practice.
Well, this was brought up at the Finance and Administration meeting on March 15th, and here it's been sitting all this time waiting for final approval. You have a personnel committee that's reviewing it, making a recommendation. Perhaps it could bypass the Finance and Administration, move directly to the full board, thereby cutting 2 weeks off of that. That's one way that it can be done. Or the finance, or rather the personnel department, just immediately authorizes it. That's a consideration too. You've got that committee, they're looking into it. It could be an immediate authorization. I don't know whether there's any provisions that absolutely require or preclude the ability to do that. Is that something that the board would think they'd want to do? I mean, you just brought up, John, a great point about how that 2 weeks period of time netted a positive overall effect in actions that we were going to take.
In a purchasing environment.
And there is maybe some element of this too. Maybe we would have constituents say, what do you mean you're putting on a new IT person or whatever? Didn't you just do that 2 years ago? And are we shortcutting ourselves from not allowing that to happen?
Well, I think Roger indicated we did generalize that conversation, and that maybe it's something as simple as if the position becomes that person is terminated or leaves within the probationary period, that it's automatic, because we're talking 90
totally
days.
reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of language.
I would just
be
like to
easy
see
get.
something like that out of this conversation, so that our department heads aren't burdened, by I don't know, us bogging them down when they're trying to find people. It's hard enough to find people as it
I
is.
think we got to work creative and work smart within our
Yeah,
confines.
but with not loosening up all the reins, so that 5 years from now, we're having
absolutely.
issues the other direction. So I think we flushed that out. Good conversation. We'll now move on to FA 050-22, approval of memorandum of understanding, Sheriff's Office.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the memorandum of understanding between Sanilac County Board of Commissioners and the Sanilac County Sheriff's Office for the purpose of expediting the filling of vacancies. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Moving on to FA 051-22, authorization to post and fill probate court clerk position.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes probate court to post and fill a court clerk vacancy at a pay grade 5, step 1.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. FA 052-22, authorization to provide employee benefits, Parks Commission.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes full-time parks employee benefits mirror the vacation, sick, and personnel leave time, along with longevity and holiday pay as received by full-time TPOAM bargaining union employees, and with an effective date following board approval, and longevity will be effective on the eligible employee's next anniversary date.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. I now understand why you gave me that.
Yeah.
That refreshed my memory. Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just, I got this, and I'm sorry I didn't get it out to you folks. Like, in my battle with airlines and credit cards, things got away from me. Annually, with our employees right now, and Mike Brunke, who retired Friday, is included in this. The annual cost would be $49,508, so just shy of $50,000 a year. And this will come from parks revenues.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Moving on to FA 053-22, authorization to fill sorter positions, recycling center.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes recycling center coordinator supervisor fill vacancies as needed in 2022.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion?
Just want to make one comment. I serve on that board and these are part-time people that come and go, and we need our supervisor to have the authority to go ahead and fill his need. That's what this is saying.
What is the ad needed? Seems really broad, right? So who's making that decision here? It seems to be the coordinator supervisor, right? What oversight do we have to ensure that, you know, that person sees the need for, you know, 10 additional employees over there?
Well, I think that person's been there for quite some time.
Shouldn't we be dealing with a baseline FTE?
There's a specific number of hours. I know Joanne's here, she could talk on.
Yeah, what I try to do is I try to keep it at a certain amount of hours. When I'm at a capacity, I have people that will work. I have, an example is I have one guy that started out working 28 hours a week. He's down to about 4.75 hours. So what I do is, Joel, I try to keep it at a certain amount and I average it out throughout the year to see if it's 200 hours for the, you know, I have one guy that it has 40 hours.
Mhm.
So I try to get it so that I know how many hours for the week is gonna be, and then for 2 weeks. And as I told you before at the personnel meeting, if I don't have work, I don't keep them there. You know, they might go home at 11:30 if I don't have any work. If it's raining and snowing and there's 6 inches of snow outside and nobody comes to recycle, they go home. You know, I don't keep them. So, you know, and they don't mind going home. So
What's the method that we'll be utilizing to have some kind of oversight? So you may be gone in 6 months, or you may be here in 2 years, but there'll be somebody else. And we're talking about the capability that you currently bring to the board. What's, you know, the next person that's in there?
This is limited to only the year of 2022, so the remainder of this year.
All right.
Yeah. I think Tara told me
Thank you
that
for
every
bringing it up.
year I have to come and ask, you know, to have sorters if I needed them. That was
Yeah,
what
we-
she basically told me.
We always look at it as a pool of employees that you can utilize, since some might only work 4 hours, or maybe they'll start out at 40, next thing you know, they're off for 3 weeks and you need someone to fill their hours.
I had a girl that started in October. Good worker, was working 28 hours a week. The last 2 weeks, she hasn't been there because she had an emergency gallbladder surgery. And so, I mean, I never know. I guess what we need to do, and that's what I was talking about at the personnel meeting, is that maybe what we need to do is we need to look at, instead of people, let's look at hours. You know what I'm saying? If I say, okay, I need 230 hours a week, and then try to keep it at that. But you also have to remember, and I think I mentioned it at the personnel meeting, I did 1.5 million pounds last year, which was probably over 300,000 pounds more last year than I did. And I also did my budget, or my revenue was supposed to be at 100%. I did 203%. So, you know, if we have to kind of look at it as, if I got more stuff coming in, and that's what DEQ wants in the state of Michigan. They wanted to keep on, you know, going up in poundage and that. And that's where we get our grants and things. So I think it would be a good idea to look at the hours versus the people. You know, because I can have a person that's supposed to be here for 28 hours when she doesn't show up.
Perhaps your board can do exactly that, Gary.
And it might take you 3 people to fill them 28 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a couple of people that work for mental health. They come in, they would have to ride the bus. They don't have a driver's license. So they're there at 8:30, 9 o'clock because they come by Sanilac Transportation. Some of the mental health workers work 4 hours every other week. So, you know, it's just an array of people. I might have 16 people and I might only have, you know, 200 hours, and one of them has 40 hours a week. So, you know, we have to kind of look at that. So.
Thank you.
Any further discussion about the topic? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 054-22, award authorization to purchase vehicle equipment, Sheriff's Office.
Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the bid to outfit two 2021 Ford Police Interceptors from Procom Incorporated Mount Pleasant at a cost not to exceed $18,443.75 with funding from the USDA grant and commissary fund.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Moving on to FA 055-22, award authorization to purchase vehicles, Sheriff's Office.
Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the Sheriff's Office to purchase four Ford Police Interceptor utility AWD vehicles to be assigned to the Uniform Services Division from Signature Ford of Wausau, Michigan at a cost not to exceed $150,964 with funding from the Sheriff's Vehicle Line and Commissary Fund.
Support discussion.
You support that?
And then
I would like to make a friendly amendment, the FA 055-22. And I would like to cross out Signature Ford of Owasso, Michigan, and put in Tubbs Brothers of Sandusky, Michigan. And the cost will change. The cost we have in our package, $150,964.00. That new cost would be,
$153,699.
yes, thank you. Yep, 153,699.
I'm good with that.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a friendly amendment to that motion to change the name from Signature Ford to Tubbs Brothers Sandusky, a change in the price from $150,964 to $153,699. And we have a support for that friendly amendment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 056-22, award and authorization for parking lot improvements, building and grounds.
Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the bid to Aztec for the purpose of parking lot improvements for the courthouse, sheriff's office, Dawson Street buildings, and the MSP post at a cost not to exceed $107,096.11 with funding from the building and grounds budget.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Nick, those quotes are in here. How many? We had MTH, Ameriscape, Aztec. Right? Anybody local?
Aztec is the one.
Cool.
Aztec's local, they subcontract with Capital Excavating, the concrete side, which is based on Sandusky, and then Scott Western for the landscaping, and they plan on starting April 11th. if everything's approved.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to FA 056-22, award and authorize, I'm sorry. FA 057-22, approval of amendment to the Child Care Fund, 24th Circuit Court.
Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the budget amendment to increase allocation up to $150,000 from the general fund to the Child Care Fund, which will generate a savings of up to $75,000 and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary document.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to NFA 013-22, acceptance of the 2021 Annual Drain Commission Report.
Santa Ana County Board of Commissioners hereby accepts the 2021 Annual Drain Commission Report as presented.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to general public comments. Are there any public comments today? Hearing none, we will move on. The board is going to go into closed session for attorney-client communication. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'm going to go into closed session.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlin, support from Commissioner Sarcella. Leslie, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard.
Yes.
We're going to go into closed session at 2:09. Everyone is welcome to stay in the hallway and wait to the end of the meeting, but just so everyone's aware, the only thing that will happen when we come out of closed session will be approval of closed session minutes and an adjournment to the meeting. So if you feel like you're ready to go, feel free.
Don't forget, finance and administration.